short, quick story. I put this in the cleaners and they lost the piece that was here and the piece on the back. Yeah.
I noticed already. Yeah. I was going to comment about it.
Yeah, I was like, let's not do this, man. Let's not do this. And I was like, I'm not paying for it.
Watch you see it like on his keys. The next week. Like, he's like, where'd you get that Staple keychain from?
Like, yo, this is exclusive. Oh, Jeff, welcome to the compound, man.
Thank you.
The first question I ask is because you've done it all. You've seen retail build-outs. You've seen stores, some of the best designs. What do you think about the space in general?
This space.
The
vibes is so dope here. I really love it. I mean, the second I walked in, I just felt the creative energy, the collaborations. I love the way you laid it out open so that it's got separate spaces, but people can still see into the different zones.
Yep.
Like you said, it has Reed Space DNA in here.
Yo, I have an internal nickname. I'm the Black Jeff Staple.
Wow, that's an honor.
Nah, definitely, man. It's not many people in our culture that, you know, you're you know how a person got a DeWalt toolbox set, but it's a Swiss Army knife in there. That's what you are, like, for the culture.
Thank you very much.
And you know, for me, doing these interviews has been fun with all the people, various people, friends, and like key tastemakers and cultural shifter movers. But I like going from the beginning of your journey because a lot of people, some people know the Pigeon, some people know the store, some people know Reed Space, but
yeah,
a lot of people might not know, you know, before the Pigeon, you
right.
know, just Jeff. So starting the journey off, where did it all start for you? Town, city, family, son of who?
Yeah.
Like, where does it start for you?
Jersey.
Wow.
So I was born in Jersey, exit 11 on the Turnpike.
Okay.
Only son of an immigrant family that came to America to have the first U.S.-born person in the clan. So the first U.S. passport, the first high school graduate, the first one that would hopefully go to college and graduate college, which I'll tell you later that didn't happen. But they were hardworking immigrants, man. They were, you know, this is going back to the 70s now. So they had a business in Chinatown, New York City, on Franklin, actually, which is now like multi-million-dollar, you know, condos. But
yep.
Back then, they had a little warehouse where they would distribute soy sauce and fortune cookies to local Chinese restaurants. Now, I'm talking about the 70s.
The 70s.
There's no Michelin star cool guy, David Chang.
Yeah,
like
none of that.
It's like down and dirty. They had to deal with the triads,
everything.
Protection money in Chinatown. Like
the rats.
It was, yeah,
it
was gangster. You know, the Chinese mafia really ran Chinatown back in that day, and my parents had to really go through it. And so they would bring me into the city all the time. So I grew up just absorbing that Chinatown, downtown New York City area in the 80s. So I'm a product of that generation, you know. And it's a blessing that I got to see that. Even though I lived in Jersey, I got to witness the tropes that people reminisce on that era of downtown New York City culture. So you think about like that image of B-boys on a piece of cardboard
yes.
selling mixtapes out the back of a trunk. These are like cliches that people say, but to witness it like you and I did, like airbrushing on the back of a denim jacket at Antique Boutique and shit, like amazing. I witnessed all this shit, and you can imagine this kid is just like jaw-dropping of like, you know, trains back then were still covered. You know, they weren't cleaned yet. You know, this was like the Y token subway, you know, like with the cutout Y. Yeah, this is that era.
I'm still looking for one of them now.
Yeah, it's dope. I mean, just growing up in that era, I just knew it was my muse, and I just fell in love with it. So obviously at this point, I had no idea of how I was going to contribute or be a part of that culture. I was just a fan of it, and I'm still a fan of it to this day, you know, but that was my first sort of introduction into it.
So I always say I blame my mom for everything, even not the bad, but the good. And
yeah.
I got a pair of Nike, I forgot the name of the blue and white ones.
Revolution.
The Revolution.
Yo, how are you calling out the Air Revolution? People don't even know what the Air Revolution is. They don't even know.
We're gonna have to, y'all have
and
to
the
Google
fact that they never retroed it is crazy.
It's crazy.
To me.
So, message. So, that I remember, and I still have them. I'm gonna send you a picture when I get to my house later. I'm gonna take a picture and send them to you. And I got them later, and I was like, wow, because she still had them, and I was like, yo, you had me in style at a very young age. Like, do you remember, like, when? Because Do you remember when that started for you? Like just seeing like the Nikes and all the cool stuff as a kid.
Same era, man. I mean, same exact era. The Air Revolution was the low-key one that really did it for me. I rarely say that in press and interviews because heads just don't even know what that is.
Yep.
So I usually revert to like the Air Jordan 3, which came out in '86, I believe, as the first shoe that turned me into a quote-unquote sneakerhead. Obviously, I wore sneakers before that.
Totally.
But sneakers back then, people forget, like, sneakers were a commodity sports equipment tool.
Performance shoe.
Yeah, like you go to Champs, or I don't know if you remember, there was this chain called Herman's back in the day.
Herman's, JCPenney's, Gimbals.
You buy your baseball glove, bat, pair of sneakers. You destroy them, you buy another one. You had 2 shoes in your rotation, basically.
And they really was the play-in.
Exactly,
like,
that's it.
Not the styling.
Yeah. So even to me, the Jordan 1 was a shoe to play ball in.
Oh, totally.
In '85,
exactly, yeah. I think every shoe, I remember a spot built I had a spot built.
To play ball in. Yeah, exactly.
And Tonics I played ball in. So the young age,
yeah.
You cross many, cultures though. Music, fashion. When was the music in your household at a young age or and the music, what all the cultures that you are living now were in your household at a young age?
I was really fortunate. So my dad is a Chinese immigrant, and for some reason, he was really enamored by jazz and blues. Okay. So we had like Take 5 records, Marvin Gaye records.
Wow.
Random, like this old Chinese guy just had these amazing soul records, right? And so that was in my head going on, like just planting the seed, and then I started to be able to go with him record shopping and buy certain things. I remember one of the first records for me that I chose and bought was Off the Wall, Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Prince, 1999. Those were the records that I started selecting, and my dad was into them because it's the same DNA.
Yeah, totally.
Strand, you know what I mean? So there was that. The other thing that I got really into was comics, right? Love comic books.
Wait, Marvel or DC?
I was equal opportunity. I liked X-Men, I liked Batman, I liked Frank Miller, I liked Todd McFarlane. So I liked it all. I was a big collector, and I still have them. I still have like 10,000 books.
Wow.
So you had the vinyl records, you had the comics, and then you had the sports and the sneakers, which we were just talking about. Which, by the way, my parents did not understand at all.
What was going on?
No, they didn't get like why I needed 10 pairs of shoes in the house. Like, what are you doing, 10 pairs of shoes,
For no reason.
No reason. And going back to the story of like when the sneakerhead bug started, it was really like, so Air Jordan 1 played ball in that. Air Jordan 2 was the made in Italy one, which no one really understood or got. Air Jordan 3 was the first one where I was like, well, I got to take care of these things. Like just innately, I didn't understand why. Like there was no blog or website that said clean your shoes, Jason Mark this, protect. No, I just felt like I need to cherish these things. These are a different work of art,
For me, I always give a lot of credit to Spike Lee when the 3 came.
Yeah.
It was
all credit to, man.
It was like seeing it in Do the Right Thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, no, I'm sorry, Mars Blackman commercial.
Yep.
And I think the 4s
got to be the shoes.
Yeah, got to be shoes. I think the 4s was in Do the Right Thing.
Yes.
And I was just like, when I started seeing the shoe, the Jordan, like pretty much, I mean, even the ones culturally cross over to like commercials, and I forgot the guy name in Living, Dwayne Wade.
No, not Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne, right? Was it Dwayne
Wayne?
Dwayne Wayne.
Yeah. That's right.
He was my like Jordan fashion guy at a point. Like I was like, oh, he's on TV and he's the guy.
Yo, you bring this point up in Do the Right Thing, the scene where the white dude rolls over the Jordans with the bike.
Yeah.
And there's that scene, right? That was the first time, because we felt that. We lived that.
We knew what that was.
But we were weird, right? Like, at least in Jersey, it was weird to obsess over shoes like that. Like, if someone stepped on, you got mad and you got down and you
ran
wiped
home,
it.
you wiped
People
it off.
are like, yo, it's a sneaker. Like, chill out, right? But when Spike put that on camera, that's when it was validation that like, no, it's not weird. There's something.
This is a moment.
Yeah, there's a community here, and we felt seen.
So going through your journey already, you got bit by a bug a lot of times already. I mean, from the comics to the to the
Vinyl,
sneakers,
yeah.
vinyl. When did for me, I always know 7 years old, I was like, okay, I'm different. Like it's I was shouts out to my cousin Dre. We were in Queens on 221st and 130th, and we were like building little worlds with our Star Wars toys on bricks and like.
Oh my God!
To this day, I think I don't remember if it was my Boba Fett or his Chewbacca dropped in one of the bricks, and we still go crazy over this. But I knew at 7 years old, like, okay, this world of me building worlds with my toys. When did you know that? Okay, I'm different. I look at all this stuff different. Mm-hmm. A lot of people was collectors. They collected comics or sneakers or whatever, but it's something different that inside yourself. And when did that light bulb go off for you?
It's really interesting because I was doing the same thing as you, building these worlds, and like I was doing it with G.I. Joes more so. Okay. So I was building these worlds and stuff. So here's the difference, though, and it's really interesting to hear your story. I think this is the big difference between growing up in the city and in Jersey. Okay. I also had no siblings. All right. So I'm in the middle of New Jersey. I am an anomaly because in my neighborhood in New Jersey, it was so white. Like I was an outcast. Like I'll just give you an example. There were 1,600 kids in my school, 3 Asians.
Wow.
Out of 1,600. There was like 5 black kids. So the only way to survive in the middle of New Jersey back in the 70s and 80s was assimilation. Like you just had to like duck and cover and pretend you like Culture Club and Boy George and shit, you know? Like if you actually rocked LL Cool J, you'd get bullied for that.
Wow.
Yeah. Even kicks, like I was made fun of because I wore different kicks to school. Okay, so that's the difference. I think like I didn't realize I was different or dare I say even cool until much later. Like not until college, bro.
Wow.
I was like a weirdo that entire time. Middle school, high school, I was a weirdo. I remember one time I was low-key a big fan of Boys to Men. You remember the Boys to Men look?
Yeah.
Denim shirts, the vest, the tie.
Yep, totally.
One day I decided to wear a Boys to Men look to high school.
Jeff to Men.
I got into a fight with someone over that, like a physical fist fight, because I wanted to dress like dandy and like with a tie.
Wow.
Yeah, I got into an altercation over that. Whereas you probably would get props for that. Like,
nah, shout out to Sean Stockman. Actually, me and him went to school together back in the day when I first moved to Philly. They came. It was. It was funny because when they came, though, it was a R&B height though. It was like, it was another opposite side of cool compared to the Tribe Called Quest and the Mobb Deep. So it was like they doing something. So it was a world of people that was dressing like them that was accepted. Maybe just a part of Jersey where you was at. No, it wasn't.
We were so basic ass mall. Spencer's Gifts, Merry-Go-Round, Z Cavarici. Need I say more? Like you understand. You know,
Merry-Go-Round. I get it. So let's fast forward. But I guess it's you're building your craft already by collecting comics, sneakers, music. Get through high school, now college. But you're a designer also. Was that also because a lot of designers come from drawing art, and was art part of your world from drawing, a technical aspect of not studying and learning of it, but were you drawing at a young age to like transfer that into design later?
Yeah, I was drawing at a young age. Just for fun though. I wasn't going to like an art school or anything like that. That came from my love of comics. So what I was trying to do, at first I would mimic Wolverine and Incredible Hulk and I would try to copy them. And then I started to make up my own characters or make up like, Batman had all these like crazy vehicles and shit. I would make up my own vehicle, so that's where like, that's important because I think, copying gets a bad rap. I actually think copying is a great way to get your foot in the door on like creativity. Just copy and then add your own twist to it. And that's what I did when I was young. But that whole time, there was no inkling in my head that this could be a career choice. It was literally like, I'm going to school, my parents want me to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, and then I'm doing this thing on the side, and I have no idea what this is gonna how this is gonna be part of my life. Literally up until sophomore year in college, I still had no idea I was going to be a creative. Isn't that wild?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm talking like, I'll just set some dates here for you. I started Staple in 1997. In 1995, I had no idea I was going to be a working creative.
Wow. So, okay, so like Staple came 97.
Yeah.
But in 95, when you were like, what was this like, okay, because to me right now, college, there was two things going on.
Yeah.
I'm not finishing college, but you still don't really know what you're doing. You're like,
You're not finished.
No, you.
Oh, me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't finish college. I didn't finish 2 colleges. So I'm a double dropout.
double dropout. Like during that time, it seemed like you was like, you're starting to learn yourself. But then not long after, Staple comes.
Yep.
What was that time period for me to be like, this is not for me,
Yeah.
but now I'm gonna go pursue this path?
Okay, so back in this day in 95, I'm getting odd jobs in downtown New York City just to like put food on the table, literally. And minimum wage back then was like, I want to say like $8.50. So like if you found a job that paid you $8.75, you're taking that job. Then $8.90, I'm taking that job, right? And I'm talking like I swept hair at a hair salon, cleaned up tables at a Chinese restaurant. Fucking, I was the guy who rewound VCR tapes when you didn't rewind them. Like I'd be the guy that just put it in the rewind machine and shit, you know? Talk about old, right? So one day I randomly got a job, 2 jobs that really changed my life. One was at what's called a desktop publishing firm, which is another way of saying a book design firm. Data entry clerk, $9 an hour. I went in there and that place taught me this program called Quark Express, Photoshop, and Illustrator. And that's when I was looking around the firm and I was like, wow, these people look like they're having fun at their job and it's their career. This is dope. That's number one. Number two, I got an internship at a random company called PNB Nation, which was one of the first epicenter ground zero streetwear brands from back in the day.
Was it Post No Bills?
Post No Bills is PNB Nation.
Because a lot of other names came up.
Yeah. Proud Nubian Brothers, Please No Bacon. Yeah.
Exactly. All right.
And I wasn't like a fan yet of like streetwear and I wanted to get in this company. I was just like, yeah, let me learn another craft. So I interned with Brew, Sung, West, Zulu. These were the 4 founders of PNB. And they're like, they don't know what they're doing either. This is like streetwear 0.1.
It's streetwear 001 instead of 101.
The only streetwear brands back then were them. Hayes had a brand.
Yep, Hayes had a brand.
What else? Futura and Stash had a brand called Project Dragon.
Was that was when it Nort too?
No, way before Nort.
Yeah,
way before Nort. Yep. This is Subwear Project. The only store selling streetwear was Union.
Yep.
So Union was like literally smaller than this rug.
It was
Union was this big.
It was owned by a little Asian lady, right? Like I forgot.
No, she was Puerto Rican, I think. Marianne.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Marianne.
It was very small.
Who was dating or maybe married? I'm not sure. James Jebbia of Supreme.
Supreme. Yeah.
So James Jebbia of Supreme owned Union with Marianne.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. And so fast forward a little bit, when I started selling Staple to Union, my checks from Union would say Jamco. Jamco was James and Mary Ann Co. Jamco. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
But yeah, that's those 2 jobs were like pivotal to me because that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do in my life. This is it. I want to combine all those things that I love: sneaker culture, sports, comics, design, music, into this fashion but not fashion thing. And then this was the culmination. Again, streetwear was not a word yet. It wasn't a category yet.
It was clothing.
There was urban.
Yeah, urban clothing.
Like there was Fat Farm, Pele Pele,
Carl
Mecca.
Kanai.
Yep, Carl Kanai, Sean John. But not this. There was like a little bit of skate DNA, a little bit of punk DNA mixed with urban into this new genre that was building.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And New York though, because
it could only happen in New York.
It only happen in New York. So now, all right, so this is great. So now you're in PNB, all the cultures that you grew up a fan of, and then the world of Photoshop and Acrobat, all of the programs. Yeah. But was that the clicking of, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to do, but with my own brand?
First of all, what's cool that you mentioned about Photoshop and Acrobat, that was my foot in the door, by the way. So Brew and them and the founders of PNB were a generation before. So they weren't as savvy in the computer programs at that time. They were doing everything old school, like mechanicals and like tape and X-Acto knives. And they're like, can you just lay this out in Quark and make us a little line sheet? So that was my contribution as an intern back then. All right, so that was my foot in the door. Now, to the second question that you asked, when did I know I wanted to do my own thing? PNB was founded by 4 people, equal partners that I just mentioned, right? And I would just see them bicker and argue all the time. And it happens. If you have a partner, you're going to argue, right? But they would get heated arguments. I would just see them walk out and not come back. And I'm sitting there in the intern, like with mad tension in the room, like, so can I ask a question now? And I was so in love with it that I thought to myself, naively in a way, but I was like, I want to do this, but on my own. I want to see what I could do potentially without a partner, you know, also because I didn't have any partners that were interested. But let's see, like, if I could do something like this, but without a partnership, how would that be? And I kind of went out like that comic book Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, I just went out on my own and did it. And I think that is a double-edged sword, to be honest, because it benefited me in some ways, but it was also tough because you're alone doing it. You don't have a clique or a crew. But then the funny thing is, without a clique or a crew, you also don't really have beef with anybody because you're just a solo guy. You know, you're Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, just that monk out there that's doing his own thing. I think that's always been kind of like my weird position in this culture, you know?
It sounds like me.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it seemed like, Jeff, we're at, what, 96? Evan never even told you, 96 was a pivotal year for me too, like super pivotal. And I always say the biggest cultural thing that happened in 96 was the 96 draft.
Okay.
So Kobe, Steve Nash, Stephon Marbury, Fuji's album,
Yes.
a lot of big things. I got signed to Tommy Boy Records in 1996.
Okay.
At the same time, I met Ann One at the end of the year of 1996.
Yeah.
So I forgot how old I was, but I was like, this year is special because I like, you just knew that 96 draft was gonna be big, and the Fugees came. I think Mobb Deep had out. It was a bunch of albums that dropped in 96.
And then you remember Stretch and Bobbito?
Yep, their show.
Their show was popping off, you know, like all these artists doing like freestyles.
That was ridiculous.
It was just an amazing era.
So it seems like this culmination happened for you in 96 too.
Yeah.
Was that like, okay, was that the leaving point of PNB, or like, okay, I'm still at PNB, but Staple was born?
Staple was already inkling at that time. And I was hand silk screening shirts. At this point, I was going to Parsons School of Design. So I'm hand silk screening. They're not even Staple shirts. They're shirts that I designed just to give out to my friends. Okay. I just love the medium of a t-shirt. I thought, if I'm gonna make a graphic, like I could make this and put it on a canvas, but then it's just sitting. I lived in Bushwick at the time. Before it was cool Bushwick. It was like not cool Bushwick, right? And like no one's coming to Bushwick to see my art on my wall. So I was like, let me put it on a shirt, and then if I give it to 10 friends and they're taking the subway and the bus and train, my art is being seen by more people. That was my only intention for printing on shirts. And actually in 97, I remember the day vividly, March 7th, 1997.
Wow.
I walked in with one of my shirts into the 555 Soul Boutique in downtown, and the manager, rest in peace, his name is Deflon, he was like, yo, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get that? And I was like, oh, I made this. He was like, yo, if you want to make a dozen, we'll put them in the shop. And that was like, wait, what? I can have a business?
This is real now.
I'm talking about the dozen shirts at $12 each. It was a $144 PO, but like, I have a business. He's like, what's the name of your brand? And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, let me get back to you tomorrow. So I had to think of a name real quick. And I came up with the name Staple. And then, so I deliver the shirts. Mind you, side note, in order for me to print shirts at Parsons, I had to break into the silkscreen lab. They didn't allow me to print shirts. So I had to leave a window unlocked, crawl in through the window at night, and print shirts all throughout the night. Wow. So to fulfill this order, I had to break into school, make 12 shirts, come back, give him the shirts. I was like, my brand name is Staple. And he's like, all right, bet. I'll see you next time, Jeff Staple. And I was like, when my name's not Jeff Staple, like the brand is Staple. He's like, no, but you Jeff Staple. And I was like, wait, what? And he literally gave me the name Jeff Staple. It was wild.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
And then 12 sold out, became 24, became 36. Still had to break into school, to make these shirts. Then I remember the manager of Union at the time, Vito, he caught wind of what was happening at 555. He's like, yo, if you make us a special design, we'll carry Staple as well. And then it started to be Union, and then it became Bobito's Footwork at 323 East 9th Street. And then what was the other store? Bomb the System on Canal. Footwork, Rich Medina in Philly.
No, that's where I first seen your shirt at.
Exactly. So he saw it in Bob's, and he was like, yo, we need to get these in Philly.
I remember literally, that was
Shout
the first.
out Rich Medina, man.
Yeah, that's my brother, Rich. And shouts out to his breath, because it's been stinking since 95. So shout out to Rich Medina.
Is this a Listerine spot now? Is this going to flip into like
nah, I can't.
Sponsored post by Listerine?
I tried to get Rich the deal, but they was like, that's too much. That Rich, but I literally, that was, because I remember when Bobito and Rich opened the store in Philly, it was right off 2nd and Market.
Yep.
And they had sneakers, wax, records, and T-shirts. And I was like, what is this Staple thing? And that was literally the first place I seen Staple. And
so wow, that is so dope.
Yeah, and it's literally that. Shouts out to Bobito and Rich too, because their store is the reason I actually got the job at N1.
How so?
I was going to DJ in Florida for WWF Wrestling when I was signed to Tommy Boy Records, and I went by their store to go buy records before my trip. And the head of footwear, you know how footwear samples guys and test wear guys come out with the big bag?
The big duffel, yeah.
A guy named Peter Smalls, we called him Biggie. He came in the store and was like, and he had the big bag on the counter, and I was like, who's this dude, man? I'm buying records. And, you know how you buy records, you put them on the counter and walk back. And his bag was in the way, and I was like, so I put my records there, and he was like, yo, you mind if I show you something? And he literally opened the bag, and goes back to the 96 story. Goes back to the bag, opens it, and he pulled the N1 sneakers out, and he was like, yo, you like these? I was like, these are all trash. And he was like, yo, thanks for your honesty. He was like, I said, but it doesn't matter right now. I was like, you could pop this off. He was like, what do you mean? I said, if you connect these back to hip hop right now, they will blow. And I was just like, yo, this is the hottest year. Like the albums you named, I talked about the basketball, and then that store brought so many things together, and it was literally first time seeing your brand, and also for me getting my job with N1.
Can I tell you a Bob story? So I wanted to be in that store so bad. I wanted Staple in that store so bad because, like you said, it was the Mecca. And so I had an appointment with Bob through the kid who worked in the store. I think his name was Vaz, actually. And so I show up for the meeting, and Bob is 3 hours late, okay? And his store is like the size of this rug also, right?
Totally.
And so the kid is like, yeah, just sit on that milk crate and wait for Bob. So I sat on a milk crate for 3 hours like fucking Guantanamo Bay, like I'm in some fucking prison cell. I just sat there. Bob comes in. I'm all nervous because Bob, to me at this point, is not a friend yet. He is the GOAT of the voice on the radio.
Radio, right? Basketball,
DJ, you know, the whole thing. So I had my little line sheet. I showed it to him. He gives it maybe 2 minutes. I'm not feeling this, bro. And I walk out the store, and like a tear rolled down my eye because my hero that I just waited for gave me 2 minutes and just trashed my shit. But then it lit the fire under my ass to be like, I'm gonna try again. So I made new designs, came back to him, and he's like, this is what I'm talking about. Then the rest is history, and Staple was in.
Wow, okay. So Staple's in, came, and now the brand is real.
Yeah.
The alter ego comic book character name, basically. Jeff Staple is a real person now.
Clark Kent became...
Basically, Jeff Staple was Clark Kent. So, of course, you Staple, it was like the word design. And I always say, like, I look at Nike, you have your word design, and then you have your swoosh.
Yeah.
When did the Pigeon come?
Okay.
Soon after?
No. So Staple officially started in 97, as I said, as a word mark, which, by the way, since 97 has never changed. 28 years, I've never changed the fucking logo. And that to me is like one of the things I'm most proud of.
Totally.
Because people change their logo like every fucking year. Like brands today don't even have a word mark. It's just like whatever font of the day it is, you know? So anyway, never changed my logo. 5 years in, 2002, I started thinking about wanting a mascot, okay? Because I started to actually go international. And like people in Japan and China, they had a hard time saying like, staple, you know, like I was like, oh man, I need like like a polo horse, a Mark
Something.
Echo Rhino,
The bear.
a Lacoste. Yeah, bears. I need like an animal because then it transcends language, you know? And I started thinking about this idea of like, man, what if it was a pigeon? Like, it's the ultimate if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't live in the 5 boroughs, you're just like, this is vermin. Why would I want to wear this? But I really felt like there was this pivotal moment where everyone knows the story of Ralph and how Ralph isn't really from the country club, but he created this aspirational world, right, of being in this country club life. But us growing up in this era of graffiti, hip hop, DJing, breakdancing, you know, art and design, even if we got a huge bag, I don't think we were going to join a country club. Like, that's not how we wanted to rep ourselves. So I kind of had this notion that, like, maybe the pigeon could be a more representative animal of who we are and where we came from versus, like, I made it, so I'm wearing a polo horse. Like, I want to be like, I made it, and I came from this. Like, you know what this means when I have a pigeon on my chest. And you got to tell the story of what you thought the pigeon meant when you saw it.
I thought this was a whole criminal underworld. Somebody was washing their money with this. So for me, it was like, okay, New York City, first of all, pigeons are not clean in New York City. So I was like, your pigeon was gray, and I knew it was art, but I was like, it looks dusty, but it's still detailed digitally, right? And I was like, wow. So I was like, okay, New York. I said, this brand's from New York. And streetwear is just starting to bubble. 90s, a lot of people were trying to wash their money in the underworld. And I was like, somebody found a dope little young designer, and they're gonna flip the birds to streetwear.
Yep.
And I mean, that's what the music business was doing.
Yeah.
Every other business was doing it,
A way to clean money.
Clean money. Laundromats was popping up, little soul food restaurants.
Whatever, yeah.
And I was like, this is the first drug dealer clothing brand that's hot from New York. And then years later, I was like, the Dunk come, and I was like, oh yeah, they really, they wash it.
Not over.
They did it. They clean now.
Meanwhile, it's me. That's dope though.
So
yeah.
we have the pigeon.
Yep.
So
but
now,
it's not out yet. It's in my head.
Oh, it's in your
and
head.
it's been drafted.
Okay.
I had the design, but I hadn't yet put it out into the world. Okay.
Okay, so when was the first time the pigeon took flight?
Okay. So as the universe likes to put blessings out into the world, in 2003, I got this pigeon. I don't know how to put it out yet. Nike calls me. And I'm working with Nike already. We had put out some really dope stuff. Like if you guys Google the Navigation Pack or the Nordic Pack or the Lasered Rift, the Laser Cortez, we had done a lot of great Nike projects already. So we were already in bed with them. And Nike reached out, their new division called Nike SB, reached out and said, hey, it's an anniversary year for the Dunk. Would you be interested in designing the New York City inspired Dunk? That was my reaction. I was like, wow. The Dunk dedicated to New York City. It was already like, even before what you know of the Pigeon Dunk today, just the notion of doing the New York City Dunk was already like, you could just kill me at that point, right? And then the light bulb went off of like, wait a second, the Pigeon, which I'm trying to figure out how to launch, what if the Dunk became the Pigeon, vice versa? I just now have to convince Beaverton that the Pigeon does equal the New York City Dunk, right? Because they were thinking like I was gonna do Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, the Big Apple Dunk, right? Yeah. So when I went to Beaverton and I presented the whole mood board of a Pigeon Dunk, they were like, huh? What do you talk about? Like, we said New York City. I was like, I get it. This does represent New York City. And we were like, we don't get it. And I had to tell them, you guys out in Beaverton, if you understood it, I failed at my job. You understand that, right? Like,
because you're not from New York.
You're not from New York. Like, you have to trust me that this is going to mean something so deep and so connected to real New Yorkers. It's going to be like nothing they've ever seen before. And thankfully, they trusted me. Went through a couple of sample rounds. It took a long time. And then in 2005 is when the Pigeon Dunk dropped. But mind you, at this point, I'm still like, I don't know if people will get it. Like, this is still a flying rat. Most people still hate pigeons, right?
In New York.
Everywhere in the world and in New York. So I'm like, people, this might bomb. But I don't care because at this point, I'm like, even if this ends up at Ross, you can't tell me nothing. I still designed the New York City dunk. I don't care if it's on discount. Like my goals have been accomplished, right? So that was my feeling of this going into February 22nd, 2005, the historic day when the Pigeon dunks dropped. Wow. And then, of course, that's the historic moment of when many people think sneaker culture went from like subculture to pop culture like on that day.
To me, it's two sneakers I say that for. It's the Pigeon dunk and the Diamond Tiffany dunk.
Yeah.
It's between, I mean, it's both of them, and which is East Coast to
East Coast, West Coast. Exactly. It's a perfect, East Coast, West Coast.
Was Nick's Diamond around the same time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same year.
Same year, wow. Yeah. I'm so happy to have both. Yeah, they're probably crumbled now, but...
No, dunks are good.
They're still good?
Dunks don't crumble, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a pair of Bo Jacksons. I'm thinking I'm cool. I had the tan and brown Bo Jackson pair. I had a meeting on Nike. I'm like, I'm going to show up to the meeting in these.
And then?
I put them on, get in the elevator, and the bag bust out, they crumbled. And next thing you know, I had hard Timbs. I had a pair of Timbs in those, and I wore the Timbs to Beaverton. They was like, you wear Timbs to a Nike campus? I was like, and I actually bought them, though, showed them the sneaks.
Yeah.
Oh, we get it now.
Yeah, make your shit last longer.
Pretty much. So it's funny hearing your journey in retail, played a big part in like wanting to be in the store like Bobito, understanding like Union when that started in the Futura and Stash store. Because Reed Space came also down the line. Like, so now Staple is out in the top boutiques and even like do your collabs with Nike and all the other collabs. But when did Reed Space, when did that come into fruition? And even the thought of it, like, okay, wow. Because a lot of brands, it was funny that when I knew Staple, and I remember people kept telling me about Reed Space, and I was like, but the guy why isn't it called Staple? And like, then I went in the store, and I remember going in the store on Allen Street. I think it was like 3 steps. You walked out, and it was like one of the illest stores because it had an entrance on both sides.
Yeah, Orchard and Allen.
And I was like, but it was other dope brands and T-shirts in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it never, I was like, okay, but he has a hot brand from New York. And magazines was also in there.
Yep. Mixtapes
was, and I just was like.
And we had art shows.
No, that came a little later. Yeah. But I remember I was like, it just was fascinating to me. I was like, this guy who has one of the coolest brands in New York, one of the coolest shoes, doing these collaborations, he has a store, but it didn't feel like a Staple store.
Right.
And like, so how did that come about? The idea, what made you be like, okay, I want to be, a store for everybody?
Well, already that was a tactical move on my part, right? Like that wasn't by accident.
Totally.
The normal thing to do would have been to open a Staple store.
Yep.
Yeah. But so Reed Space actually opened in 2001, December 2001.
Wow.
Everybody knows what's happening September 2001. 9/11 just happened, right? And my office was on Division Street, literally in the shadow of the World Trade Center. Okay, that was the Staple office, was on Division Street back then. And after 9/11, I couldn't go to the office anymore for like a long time because anything below Canal was like a red zone area. You couldn't go down there for like weeks. Finally, I get to go down there and like the power doesn't work. Everything is covered in dust and it's a terrible working environment. So I was like, I need to move. So I was DJing back in this day. I don't know if you know about my little minor DJ career.
I heard about it, but I never, it was like the man, the myth, the mix.
So I was always like undercard DJ. Like I would open for DJ Soul. I would open for DJ Acclaim at APT. Okay. So I was like the opener guy. And I also DJ'd alongside Bobito at like, what was the Italian restaurant he used to DJ at? Man, I forgot. But like, I would just like help people out, I was learning. So anyway, I used to have this weekly residency at this lounge on Orchard Street called Swim back in the day. Okay. Same owners as Pianos, by the way. And so I had a gig there. And, I can't go to my office, as I mentioned, this is late 2001. And one night, I look across the street at Swim. I just finished a gig at 4 a.m. and I had 8 crates of records, pre-Uber, pre-Serato. So you have to have the records. You can't call an Uber. You just got to wait at 4 a.m. and hope a yellow cab comes. And we'll pick you up with all your records and shit, right? Yep. So I'm just standing there probably for 30 minutes. And I look across and there's a for rent sign. And I look in the window and it's the store on Orchard Street, but it goes all the way through. And I'm like, this is amazing. It goes all the way through. And at the time, I had a lot of friends in the culture that were also starting small streetwear brands. We sold at Union and 555 and stuff, you know, like, I don't know if you remember these brands, but like Milk Crate Athletics,
Totally, yep.
Double Down, 10 Deep.
10 Deep, yep.
Yep. West Coast brands too. There's Basement, Social Studies, Charismatic. There's all these little brands. And we always...
And toys too.
Yeah, and toys, yep. And we always hung out at like Magic and trade shows and stuff and always complained about not enough retailers representing our culture. And even back then, like Urban Outfitters started to carry some of us, but you couldn't get educated on what these brands meant in an environment like Urban Outfitters.
Totally.
So I was like, man, what if I just opened a space where me and all my friends could represent our brands fully, and it would sell other things that were inspiring me, like mixtapes, art, like you'd have gallery shows, you know, sneakers. And so I was like, fuck it, let's roll the dice and try this. My rent went from $2,000 a month on Division Street to $8,000 a month at Reed Space. But I was just, let's just gamble, let's just do this. So half of it was retail, the other half was the Staple office for a bit. And then eventually Reed Space got so popular that the whole thing became the store, Yeah,
I think one of my first different style art shows, not at the gallery, was Reed Space. It was Naturel show. My buddy, shouts out to Esteban, he was, it was like, it was all the way to the back and it was like small. It was, me, I think it was the first time I seen Naturel work and I was like, this is different.
Yeah, man. We had some great, we had Jose Parla's first show. We had Fail's first show. Wild shit back in that day.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
So now the brand is there, collabs is moving, retail space, but now this brings, it brings an attraction of different people. Like, now you got advertising agencies, you got marketers, brands. You got talents, and like I was always, when anybody speak of Allen Street, I'm like, this is where ASAP and them, and I remember, like I said, Kendrick Lamar shot a video on that block.
Yep.
And
Prohibit.
I used to call it the Fairfax in New York. Shouts out to my brother Chase and Mike from Market. He was on the Mike. Remember Mike?
Mike Sherman?
Yeah, he used to work in
yeah.
Prohibit. So so many people from the culture came from them. Reed Space shuts down now. Reed Space is gone.
Okay.
In this journey, in this timeline, it's like, because I look at you as a designer, a brand, but there's the world of, creative director and where has the advertising lane, like the Staple agency, like, when did that come about? It was just all through the process.
It was always there. So even back in '97, when I had Staple, the clothing line, I had basically a freelance design agency. And then I started to make hires for people to help me on the design side. So I'll tell you, two of the biggest clients that we had at the time, and not big in volume, but big in culture. One was the Fader magazine. Yeah, I don't know if you know that, but like Rob Stone, rest in peace.
Rest in peace to Rob. I was always at Fader from day one. So Steve Rifkin was a big friend of mine, and they were best friends. But when Rob first moved on, so I was working for SRC, and I was staying on 21st between 6th and 7th. Fader was right around the corner.
Yeah, 23rd.
23rd. So I used to walk around
in
there.
the Masonic headquarters.
The Masonic headquarters. The only building with a 13th floor in New York City. I used to tell everybody that when I got on. They were like, no. I'm like, yo, this is the only building in New York with a 13th floor.
Illuminati shit.
So I used to go. It's funny now that you say it, because I remember when I first met Rob, and Rob met me early when I was doing the And1 stuff. And I remember the first magazine was Funk Flex on there.
Yeah, I didn't design that one.
Okay.
Shout out to Joe Buck. Joe Buck designed that one.
So then,
who did all the De La Soul colors? So he did the first one.
He did the first one. Now the next one that came, this is when I knew.
Let's test your memory.
The tide turned. So the Cornerstone one with Funk Flex, I was like, this is cool. Looks a little XXL sorcious. So the next cover I seen, I don't even know if this was the first one. It was a black and white cover. It was Zach De La Rocha, Run, I think it was Run, and it was one more person. And I said, oh no, something's about to happen in the culture. The word Fader was up top in the middle. And I put it all, I was like, I don't even think Rob told me all this. I was like, Cornerstone is for the DJs, but now the fader is what really makes the DJ.
Yeah.
And it was right up in the top in the middle and like nice. I'm a fiend for small techs, but big enough to be ridden.
Damn, thank you so much. This means so much that you realize all this shit.
And I was like, because I got both of them. I still have them somewhere. And I remember holding the cornerstone and the fader, and I was like, this is day and night. And it was a black and white, and it was matte.
The person you're missing? Premier. Yeah.
It was matte, but it was matte.
Yeah. With the foil print, like the silver foil print.
The silver bag. Wait, I ain't even finished. But the print was a matte sheen.
Yeah.
And the word fader popped off. It probably was like 1821 font size, something like that.
My man, damn.
And I didn't even open it up yet. I just looked at it. And I said, whoever got these three people, the name, the layout, the direction of the design, and I said, this is gonna be something big that they can carry on because of the cover.
Yeah.
Then, like, I think Most Def came.
Yep.
Shouts out to Jonathan Mann, very early issue. And it was these hues of yellows. And,
yeah. The other cover, so we did double covers. The other one was Beck and D'Angelo. With Most Def on the back.
That was the next part when I knew. But I didn't look at these covers as just like, this is dope art. I was like, didn't know the design factor.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense that
the double cover came about because I remember I got the call where like, yo, our back page advertiser pulled out. We need something. I was like, double cover, fuck it.
Yeah.
But that first issue you mentioned with Zach Run and Premier, I designed that whole issue in 72 hours, no sleep. Literally stayed at the office for 3 days, 24/7 at the Masonic headquarters and designed that entire issue, did the new logo, had to sit Rob down.
Logo.
I did the Fader logo.
Wow.
Sat Rob down and explained to him why we're doing this monumental shift. And he, it's wild. I get goosebumps thinking about this because even just like 2 weeks before he passed, he wrote this incredible thing on his IG feed. It's still there about how I taught him about negative space and type and why smaller is bigger and everything that you just said. And then from there, I designed like the next 20 issues of the Fader.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nah, rest in peace to Rob Stone. We actually did a Fader art show at the compound before.
Oh, amazing! Like with the photos and everything.
With all the photos and
because they came out with that coffee table book.
Yeah. He was. I mean, both that project was amazing. I mean, and then Fader for it and everything.
Yep.
So
wait, there's another. I had another client. Remember?
Okay, yeah, it was two.
The other one was this small, tiny record label called Raucous Records. No one gave a shit about Raucous. But here I am on Broadway and Great Jones in their office, same building as the Keith Haring headquarters.
So wait till I tell you my story. Go ahead.
Okay. So they called me in first because they were
Who called you, Jared or Brian?
Jared. Yeah. So you remember they were making like the Raucous hoodies and the DJ bags?
Or the razor blade?
Yeah, with the razor blade. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just like, whatever, right? So they were like, this is actually becoming a significant business. We need somebody who can help us with this. Let's call this guy Staple, who was making this brand that we're seeing everywhere, to come in and help us with our merch. So I come in, I start working on the merch stuff, but then they're so disorganized that they're like, yo, can you hop in on this Black Star album? Can you hop in on Respiration Common? Can you hop in on 1999 with Sadat X? And I'm just like, yeah, let me help out. And it just became like this whole other thing.
So I don't even know when we met. It's been so, I think we met
I know.
passing. So I was literally going to Raucous 95, 96. Mm-hmm. So when I started the N1 mixtapes, I don't even know why I was up. Yolanda, there was a guy named Black, and headquarters, and I was up there all the time. So I went to Jared and Brian, and I think the other one named Danny. Mm-hmm. And I said, yo, I just got the situation with N1. Y'all don't know nothing about them, but I'm gonna do the first video mixtape. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I heard 1999, and that's the first record on the first N1 mixtape.
What?
They gave me.
Do you remember the album cover?
Yes, you did it.
Yeah.
Apparently. Now, but so I was signed to Tommy Boy Records in 97. Uh-huh. And so all the music on the first N1 mixtape is all Tommy Boy Records and Raucous Records.
Wow.
And then fast forward years later, I got Last Emperor signed to Raucous Records.
Damn.
So shouts out to Jared. I never knew.
We probably saw each other in the hallway so many times.
I used to be up there all the time, and then what was the restaurant right around the corner? Acme.
Yeah.
So I literally would go to Raucous all the time, and then just go to Acme and get the fish fingers and chicken nuggets or something.
What an era, right?
Yeah, it's for us to still be here, man. Is amazing.
Yeah.
So now, okay, I went from fashion. I went to designer. I went to advertising agency. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of go now to like not having a store, not but still doing the design work. A lot of collabs and bringing you to this moment of this rebirth of bringing the store back now, which is getting the location of 21 Mercer. When did because Staple was doing great, it's still doing great. Without a retail brick and mortar. Was it something missing? Was you feeling like it's time? Like what made you feel like it's time now to go back into, and it never been done from a Staple standpoint.
Yeah.
First ever
flagship
Staple store.
Yeah.
New York City, 21 Mercer. Talk about rebuilding a legacy again.
Exactly.
When did it click? Like it's time now, in that process of getting this iconic monument of brick and mortar.
It clicked in our 25th anniversary. So like I said, we're 28 now as a brand. So in the 25th anniversary, if you ever have a business that lasts a quarter century, first of all, that's an incredible blessing. But second of all, you sit down after 25 years and you're like, are we going to go for the next quarter century? Or is this time? Like, come on now. We're a streetwear brand that caters to youth culture. We're older than most of our customers as a brand. Is this time to sunset it? Which you see a lot of other streetwear brands from our era have sunsetted now, right? Yep. Or do we re-up and go? So first of all, obviously I decided to re-up and let's go, let's do this. And then I felt like just the world had just become over digitized and algoed. Like everything was just like feed, this one touch click, like free shipping, like everything was so like automatic in our heads that I wanted to bring it back to me sitting on the milk crate waiting for Babito for 3 hours, Like I just wanted that feeling of like real community, shake a man's hand, break bread, that I really felt like in everything that I'd seen, from the internet to e-commerce to NFTs to blockchain to social media, nothing replaced still just dapping a man and looking another person in the eye, which I wanted to create a space for, or spaces for. So the New York City flagship was gonna serve as the model home for other Staple locations that are gonna open throughout the world. And then the fact that 21 Mercer, I mean, when the broker gave me a list of addresses that I could look at, and I was like, hold up, does this say 21 Mercer? I was like, we're done. The search is finished. This is talk about kismet and our stories of growing up in New York City, running around downtown, proliferation of street culture, Nike coming into the project, Nike Lab, 21 Mercer, all that shit. And now I have the ability to hold that baton in this whole cycle. This is like some Raiders of the Lost Ark shit.
It's a fact.
Yep. So I was like, this is a must.
It was a must-have. So Jeff, to tie the story all together, the Pigeon has flown all around the world. To me, like I said, I consider myself the Black Jeff Staple. When I say that, I look at you as two brands. One is Jeff Staple, and one is the Staple brand. When it's all said and done with both of these paths, what do you want your legacy to be or be seen as?
You know what the secret to my longevity is? I don't think about that question. I don't do the 3-year, 5-year vision plan. My vision plan extends to tomorrow, and that's it. So here's the secret. If you can make tomorrow good, you're good to the next day. If you are thinking about your 5-year plan, but tomorrow is filled with bullshit and stress in your life, you're not getting to the 5-year plan. So I just worry about Wednesday. That's it. And that's honestly been my step and repeat for 28 years. Just, am I good? Obviously, I say that somewhat facetiously. You know, if I'm dropping a sneaker, I have to know about it 2 years in advance and stuff like that. I do plan. But when it comes to like goals, happiness, it's just a one day at a time journey for real.
Wow. I think that's amazing. I kind of, same for me. I don't think about anything. I just go. As long as I could be free, I'm happy, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, man, I think you just put a staple in this, man. Jeff, thank you, man. Thank you for coming, good brother.